It's during times like these that it's important to understand spirituality. Hi everybody, I'm Tonyah Dee, and I'm a registered dietitian. And I discovered that it's important not just to feed the body, but to feed our soul and our spirit. This month's theme is spirituality. What is spirituality? Spirituality is our journey towards building more spirit. We live in a body, we have a soul, and we are a spirit. So our spirit is on a journey. It's the spiritual path. And we're all on this path, whether we're seeking it or aware of it, but we're all on this path of becoming more of a spiritual person. So this month, I'm going to discuss some ways that you can feed your body, feed your soul, and understand your spirit more so that you can walk with more awareness towards becoming a spiritual person, towards being more spiritual, to embracing the path of spirituality. When we embrace the path of spirituality, we increase the flow of life. The flow of life feels a little easier. This is also what's called grace. So it starts with knowing that we have these inner parts, that we actually are a spirit. And it's important for us to be able to recognize how our body, how our soul, and how our spirits all interacting so that we can become a powerful spiritual being. And that is the journey we're going to take right now. So in the body, how do we feed the body so that we understand where our spirit is located? Well, in our body, our spirit is located in our heart. And some of you may know this intuitively, but inside of our heart, we're all born with a divine spark of light. It's the spirit, it's our spirit. The spirit of man is the lamp of the Lord, and our inside of our heart, this is shining on all of our parts inside of our body. It's where our spirit's found. So if you're ever hearing your body speaking to you, just know that you can always go to your heart, and that's where you're going to hear some intuition or some wisdom, because that's what comes from the spirit. So when you're kind of hearing your body speaks to you, right? It might be tired, it might be angry, it might have pains. And our body is actually trying to get us to do something about those things. And sometimes the answer is found right here in our heart. So the spirit speaks through our body, through our heart. And our heart's not just right here in our chest, but it's located centrally right here in our chest. But it flows, of course, throughout our whole body. So our spirit is centrally located here. You can identify there's a place of peace and stability right here that you can always return to. That's where spirit is located. So one thing you can do to feed your body wellness is to listen to your heart. Okay, so the next place is in the soul. How does the soul and the spirit interact? Well, as you know, I've discussed this before in my other videos. Our soul is our mind, all of our thoughts, our emotions, all of our feelings, and our will, all of our desires. That's our soul. Now, the soul tends to be very active, right? Lots of thinking, lots of feeling, lots of desiring. But what is really satisfying to the soul is being connected to the spirit. Actually, what's really satisfying to the soul is allowing the spirit to lead the soul. But most of us are caught up with not really understanding this relationship between our soul and our spirit, and our soul ends up leading us, and our soul can be not very powerful. And the spirit is where all the power is found. So when we get to the point where we can really be aware of our soul, but we're surrendering it over to our spirit, that's where we start to feel sort of satisfied in life, because now we're being led by a higher power. So the soul, how to feed the soul this month is feed it the ability to understand the spirit and follow the spirit's lead. Now let me explain how we can do that. So let's start off with the mind. So in our soul, our mind is always working, right? We're always thinking. And this is just part of God's plan for us, is to have a mind that solves problems. It judges, it analyzes, it thinks. It's always working, and it's trying to work on our behalf. It's really trying to keep us safe, solve problems, and move forward. But the mind can get so distracted, right? It's this thought, that thought, this thought, that thought. And so it's very important to just be able to observe the mind. So we're like, oh, there's my mind. It's analyzing this. Oh, it's trying to solve this problem. This must be a problem I'm really concerned about. Oh, it's judging this. It's really trying to help me understand. So our mind's always trying to help us, but sometimes it's overwhelming, the amount of thoughts that we can have. So a lot of times we just need to take our mind and focus it, and we focus it on God. So we focus on higher thoughts. Almost all higher thoughts. I think every higher thought comes from God, whether it's a Buddhist thought, or a thought from Confucius, or a thought from Jesus. These higher thoughts are thoughts that where we should put our mind. So our mind, you observe the mind and you understand, my mind is trying to help me in this area, but I'm going to focus it, stay fixed on these higher thoughts. One of the Bible verses that I really love is, you will keep in perfect peace all whose thoughts are fixed on you, all who trust in you. So we trust in the thoughts of God, and we don't always trust in the thoughts of our mind, because our mind can tell us things that actually aren't true. So we have to observe the thoughts, try to figure out what our mind is trying to do for us in that moment, or all day long. What's it doing? What's it trying to solve? As you know, I teach a meditation practice, and in the morning, sometimes I can tell exactly what my mind is trying to solve a problem. And so I recognize that that problem is significant. It means something to me, and I need to address that problem in order for my mind to calm down. So we listen to the mind, but we also surrender it to these higher thoughts of God. So in our emotions, our soul, of course, we have lots of emotions, and they change all the time, just like our thoughts are always changing. So one of the things we can do with our emotions is we really need to listen and accept an emotion. So if we're feeling tired, then we need to rest. If we're feeling sad, we need to grieve. If we're feeling even depressed, then maybe we need to go deeper and discover, what have we lost? What are we grieving? What feels extremely sad for us? If we're anxious, were we feeling fearful? So we don't reject our emotions, we accept them. Accepting our emotions is the way to relieve emotional stress or the emotional burden of sometimes carrying around an emotion that we're trying to push down really makes us feel kind of heavy. So we want to be able to make sure that we accept things that are happening to our soul. And even if you can't accept it, you kind of go like do this path of, well, I don't really want to accept it. So in that way, you're accepting that you can't accept. Anyway, give it a try. Try to really allow and accept your emotions, and you'll see that your spirit feels sort of like, and so does your soul, like, oh, I've been seen, I've been valued, I've been heard, I've been loved. So accept your emotions, and they tend to dissipate, or they'll give you some information that you needed to know about how you're experiencing life. And in our will is really tricky, right? Because it's always saying, I want this, I don't want that. It's where it drives us towards things and away from things. And this can really upset our spirituality, our ability to stay peaceful and patient. Those are qualities of being more spiritual. So when our will is kind of constantly saying, I want this and I want that and I don't want this and I don't want that, and you're being kind of driven by your will, you can really get kind of feeling scattered. So one of the goals with our will is to, again, you listen, like I want what I want when I want it, is what the soul says a lot. Like, I want what I want and I want it right now. And you just listen, you say, okay, like a little child, I hear you. I hear that you want that thing, but let's surrender. Let's surrender what I want to, people say higher power. I say God. Let's surrender our will to God's will. Let's just surrender what we want, not always be grasping and going after what we want. And sometimes when we just surrender, that thing might naturally come to us. And that's why I was saying earlier, the lessons of being spiritual on a spiritual path, spirituality, things become a little bit more graceful. So we're not doing all the work. So again, we're trying to build more spirit with spirituality. That's the whole point. Okay, the last part, body, soul, spirit, is we have a spirit, and it's in our heart. And our human spirit is connected to God's spirit. So we're connected to this higher power. That's from birth. So we're created by God. We're born into God's family, and He gives us a spirit so that we can connect to His spirit. And this is where we start finding true power, is when we are aware that we're connected to this spirit, when we believe, like Jesus said, believe and you will receive. So belief that we are a spirit connected to God's spirit is so important. And then follow, like I'm just saying some things that Jesus said, believe, follow, have faith, follow the spirit. So when we're connected to God's spirit and we understand how to surrender our soul, seek more of God's spirit, stay focused on God's thoughts, not always our thoughts, God's will, not our will, God's feelings even, feelings of love and compassion and mercy and forgiveness. Our spirit starts to be able to really grow. So when we're connected and we're surrendering our soul, and we know we're connected in our heart, then we become empowered. It's an inner power. So spirituality, the practice of becoming more spiritual, of building our spirit, that is because ideally we want to become powerful human beings who are able to do good work in the world. And so we become empowered, inner power, inner peace, inner patience, inner self-control. So we're building our spirit. We're really understanding our soul and building our spirit. So that is spirituality according to me, Tonyah, in a nutshell. And I really hope that this was helpful. I hope that this month you really start looking at the subtle parts of yourself and you're able to really find that place of spirit in your heart, and then be able to start working with your soul to be led by that part. So this was a powerful theme this month, but we need that power. We're headed into fall and winter, and it's been a pretty interesting year, and who knows what's coming. So we want that inner power. I hope that this was helpful. I'm Tonyah Dee of Y'all Light. Go with grace and go in grace. Thanks so much for being part of the community.